Some history behind nutmeg. Nutmeg is considered to be one of the most tragic spices in history. Bloody wars have been waged over the control of this spice, and many have died in an attempt to gain control of its production. It was considered a very rare and precious ingredient for a long period of time. Nutmeg was fashionable among the wealthy because it was believed to induce hallucinations. Wealthy gentlemen would use nutmeg grinders to grind the spice into alcoholic drinks. Nutmeg was also baked into pastries, pies, and cakes. During the 17th century, the Dutch waged a bloody war in order to gain control of nutmeg production. They took large amounts of this spice to Holland and stored it in a giant warehouse to keep control of its distribution. In fact, the Dutch actually traded the island of Manhattan as part of the Treaty of Breda with the British in order to keep control of the spice trade of nutmeg. During their occupation of the East Indies, the British took nutmeg seedlings from the bandas and planted them in areas under British colonial control. As these nutmeg plantations began to flourish, the price of this spice began to drop. As time passed, the middle class could now also enjoy the spice, not just the wealthy. Today, Indonesia and Grenada are the primary producers and exporters of this spice. Hi, my name is Jaretha, and this is Holly, and we work for the Live Oak Public Library. Today I'm going to be doing a recipe with nutmeg, which is the spice of the month for March. I chose a recipe out of The Gift of Southern Cooking by Edna Lewis and Scott Peacock. And the recipe for today is egg custard pie, which is my first thought when I thought about nutmeg. This book is available for checkout at the Live Oak Public Library. The list of ingredients for the pie are 3 eggs, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 1/4 cups of milk, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. The recipe calls for 1/8 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, but in our case, we are using the dried version, so use twice as much of the dried version as you do the freshly grated, so I increased that to 1/4 teaspoon, and 1 unbaked 9-inch pie crust. Okay, so we're going to begin by beating the eggs lightly in the mixing bowl, and I'll let Holly do that while I measure the other ingredients. Just want to incorporate some air in there, and I think that's good enough. And then next, we're going to whisk in the 1/4 cup, that's right, of sugar, and also the 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to mix that together. I'm going to follow that by the cup, 1 cup, and then I'm going to do another cup and 1/4 of milk. We don't want to beat this too much. And then 1/4. All right. To that, we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. All right, so a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I'm just going to sprinkle the 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg over the top. So we'll pour this into the pie shell through a strainer. This is just a frozen pie shell that I've thawed. And it's a little too much. We had to size down a little bit on the pie shell because of the size of our oven, but this would probably be fine for a 9-inch pie shell. We preheated the oven to 400 on the air fryer. The recipe calls for 450 in the conventional oven. We're going to sit it in the oven at 400 for the first 10 minutes to get the pie started. Oh, first, yes, the nutmeg. Got to do the nutmeg. And this is, it calls for 1/4 teaspoon of dried nutmeg, but I'm just going to eyeball it. I like extra. You may not. You can do it any way you'd like. So we bake the pie for 10 minutes on 400 and then reduce the temperature down to 300 for another 10 minutes. I would just recommend that you use the conventional oven at the temperature that they suggested in the recipe, which was 450 for the first 10 minutes and then reducing to 350 for another 20 to 25. This is what the finished product looks like, and it smells really good. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you look out for more from the Swanee River Regional Library in the future.